we are trying, inshallah, a bit more interactive format where we have multiple speakers. It's almost like a panel format, panel discussion type of a format, but it will have some differences, and I'll go over that when we have more participants in like a minute. If you have questions about anything to any speaker, feel free to send them as chat messages to us. All our speakers will be marked as co-hosts, so they should be able to read your message and respond. But yeah, we'll start in less than a minute with the introduction. Okay, let me start. Welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So as I've briefly discussed, but also for the ones who just joined us, we are doing a different format this week than our lecture formats from the previous weeks. We think it will be beneficial because we know that this type of studying has been helpful to many people studying different texts. And in that sense, we are hoping to make things we are hoping to make things easy to understand for all of us. And today's topic is a text from the Risale collection, the 22nd word, the second station, and the superficial versus true belief is the topic. We'll try to, inshallah, understand different types of belief in the sense that or different degrees within belief. And, we will go through a text and we will discuss with our panelists. And again, if you have questions, please let us know through the chat. If they are specific to as panelists, feel free to write it to them. Otherwise, you can write it to me. I will be moderating the session, inshallah. With that, I'll do a very small introduction on a couple of things. One is the text that we are reading. It is the Risale collection. It is a Quranic commentary that is written in 20th century, and it does focus on belief because it has been a century where the science and philosophy has been governing and the materialist, positivist thinking has been dominant. And preserving belief in that era has been a challenge for some people. And understanding that the author of the Risale collection, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, has written a tafsir and commentary of the Quran explaining those verses from the Quran related to belief and to bring them to the level of a common man. In that sense, it is very relevant to our times. And the emphasis of the whole collection is actually belief in God, belief in the prophets, the angels, the revealed scriptures, the divine determining, the afterlife. All these has been covered. Of course, a good way to understand a text is to study it. And a very good way is actually proven as muzakara. It's called muzakara, sometimes mutala, but mutala is usually very individual. Muzakara is more communal. But it's a study method where people read a text together and then they go through it slowly and share what they learn from it and what their insights are. So inshallah, this will be our focus. This will be our method starting this week. And hopefully, it'll be helpful for all of us to understand these concepts a little better. So I'll go through just introduce our speakers, not in detail because we have a few. So, and coming from variety of backgrounds, Baykar Yurdakul, and this is pretty much roughly alphabetical order because they're all equally very valuable speakers. Baykar Yurdakul, some of you guys might already know him. He's our Imam in Lighthouse for Humanity, Bloomfield Muslim Community Center. He's currently in Turkey for vacation, I'd say, and he'll join us from there, but he normally resides in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Junaid Shimshek is joining us from Washington, D.C. Area. Harun Pirim is joining us from Starkville, Mississippi. Ömer Faruk Ramazan, again, one of our assistant imams in the Bloomfield Muslim Community Center, resides in joining us from Bloomfield, Connecticut. Sami Aziz, a chaplain in DePaul University. He's joining us from Greencastle, Indiana, and we will be hearing his beautiful voice reading the text as well. And myself, Mustafa Akbulut, I'm joining from Boston. I am involved with Lighthouse for Humanity in the board, and I am assisting all these brothers from a more technical point of view, God willing. So, with that said, inshallah, we will read through the text. I'll just go through the quick outline of what we will cover. So first, of course, since this is a tafsir, this is an exegesis, this is a commentary of the Quran, there will be certain verses that will be expounded, explained. And we will first read those verses and their translation. And then there is this first flash, which explains through a beautiful example the difference between superficial and true belief. And we will discuss that. I've put those green because I'm really hoping we can go through that part today. There is a second part that our speakers have all studied before this, and that is a reminder, and that has two subsections, I can say. One is true nature of apparent causes, the causes that we see around us, what is their true nature, what they are supposed to do or mean or represent. And the second is like why uh, God created those apparent causes. So that is by itself also a very deep topic. If we have time, we can try to go into there as well. But it is possible that we won't be able to. That's why I've marked it as yellow here so that you know that even if we don't go in there today, you might inshallah anticipate that for upcoming weeks. With that, inshallah, we will read through the text once, and then we will come back for more insights from our speakers. So, and this is the 22nd word and the second station of the 22nd word. So if any of you have the Risale in your text with you, and there are pretty good, nice apps out there that you can use for some of these, but this is the part that we will be reading. And with that, inshallah, we can start reading. Brother Sami?
Sure. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. God is the creator of all things, and he is the guardian and disposer of all affairs. To him belong the keys of the heavens and the earth. So glory to him.
Brother Ömer, if you want to read also the Arabic, if you want to. Brother Ömer, did you want to?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله خالق كل شيء وهو على كل شيء وكيل له مقاليد السماوات والأرض فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون.
So glory to him in whose hands is the sovereignty of all things, and to him will you all be brought back.
وإن من شيء إلا عندنا خزائنه وما ننزله إلا بقدر معلوم.
And there is not a thing, but its sources and treasures inexhaustible are with us, but we only send down thereof in due and ascertainable measures.
ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم.
There is not a moving creature, but he has grasp of its forelock. Verily, it is my sustainer that is on a straight path. The first flash. The affirmation of divine unity is of two sorts. For example, if the goods of a rich man arrive in a market or a town, there are two ways in which one may know they are his. One is briefly and simply, as with ordinary people, which is, no one apart from him is capable of owning this vast amount of goods. But when under the supervision of a common man, such as that, much of it may be stolen. Many others may claim ownership of parts of it. The second sort is this: through reading his writing on every packet, recognizing his signature on every roll, and seeing his seal on every bill, the man declares everything belongs to that person. In this way, in meaning, everything shows the important man. In exactly the same way, the affirmation of divine unity is of two sorts. One is the superficial and common affirmation of divine unity, which says Almighty God is one. He has no partner or like. The universe is his. The second is the true affirmation of divine unity, which through seeing the stamp of his power, the seal of his lordship, and the inscriptions of his pen on everything, is to open a window directly onto his light from everything, and to confirm and believe with almost the certainty of seeing it that he is one, and that everything emerges from the hand of his power, and that in no way has he any partner or assistant in his Godhead, or in his lordship, or in his sovereignty, and thus to attain to a sort of perpetual awareness of the divine presence. We too, in this word, shall mention rays, showing this pure and elevated true affirmation of divine unity.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Brother Sami. So this is the part, inshallah, we will go back from the beginning and we'll try to understand it better through the discussion that we will have with our panelists. So I will scroll back with your permission, and we will start with the first, after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we will start with these ayah. And Allah khaliqu kulli shay'in wa huwa ala kulli shay'in wakil, lahu maqalidu samawati wal ard. And so this is the first one. And Samabi, if you want to read the thing again, the
Sure.
translation.
God is the creator of all things, and he is the guardian and disposer of all affairs. To him belongs the keys of the heavens and the earth.
So this is one of the verses, and we can go through some of these verses, but if there are any specific insights onto this word, onto this verse, maybe Brother Baikar might have some insights that I think.
I always prefer to go to the tafsir, after reading the translations. As we all know, we have a lot of different translations, and all of them are shedding light from different point of views. But I want to focus on one word in this specific ayah. So Allah khaliqu kulli shay'in wa huwa ala kulli shay'in wakil. So it defines Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the wakil. And I'm sure all of us knows the statement we usually use it, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, right? So when I say, when I define Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as my wakil, to my understanding, I'm kind of leaving all my affairs to Allah. So I'm not getting any credit for any of my works, and I trust everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is the only authority for all my affairs. So in this specific ayah, as far as I understand, it's not only defining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the creator of everything, but it also defines Him subhanahu wa ta'ala as the only wakil for everything. Everything goes back to Him. So the following ayat also, approves or strengthens this meaning, but specifically this word catches my attention that, to my understanding, my brothers can add or correct me, the correct affirmation of divine unity, acceptance of oneness of Allah, in Quranic terms, according to Islam, is summarized in this verse. So we don't only believe in a creator that give existence for the first time to everything, but He is in charge at every second of the creation. So from the very beginning of time to the eternity, He defines Himself as the authority in charge. So He never left any part of the creation alone, and He's all aware of what's going on, and He is also controlling them. To my understanding, this ayah puts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a position that, not only started the creation, but He's always in charge. So that's, in summary, my point, or my understanding of this word of wakil.
Yeah.
I wanted to just focus on this specific ayah.
That's great. That's great. Jazakallah. Any other comments on this part? Otherwise, we can go to the next ayah, and I believe more insights will also come out of those. Okay, inshallah. I'll go to the next. فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون.
So glory to Him in whose hands is the sovereignty of all things, and to Him will you all be brought back.
And
Here in this ayah, we see Allah says, the sovereignty of all things is in His hands, right? We see that, and the word here, malakut and mulk and malakut, in the Quran, we see these words, and the translations, I believe, the translation is not enough just to say sovereignty. and we will compare mulk and malakut in the following slides, inshallah. But just some things I want to say, like about the mulk and malakut in the Quran. Allah says like the sovereignty of everything is in His hands. Also the malakut, like the interiors of everything, and He gives the example of this in His other books. Sayyid Nursi says like mulk and malakut, the interior and exteriors of everything. Like for example, if we see a tree, right, and we see it as a perfect art of Allah, but we only see the exterior part of it, but the inside as well, and that's malakut, the interior of everything, the interior of that tree. He says, I will just read it. He says, we see that the interiors of such beings, where the hands of material causes can neither reach nor touch, are 10 times more delicate, well ordered, and perfect as regards art than their exteriors. So when we make tafakkur, so for example, like when we see a tree, like the interior of that tree is, he says, 10 times more delicate, well ordered, and perfect. And even that is in the hands of Allah, not in the hands of causes. Allah is controlling even the interiors of everything, because the interiors are more artful and it's perfect. He says, mashallah.
Yeah, jazakallah. Yes, great insight, and also great way with both what Brother Baikar said and you said, I believe, right? Like sometimes the translations really do not make justice to the words and the phrases in the Quran, and these tafsirs, the commentaries, definitely make it more clear for us. So going to the next verse, and others panelists can jump in. Feel free to jump in if you have comments, but otherwise I'll go in. And then the next ayah is وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا عِندَنَا خَزَائِنُهُ وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدَرٍ مَّعْلُومٍ.
And there is not a thing, but its sources and treasures inexhaustible are with us, but we only send down thereof in due and ascertainable measures.
Again, very nice explanation of God's controlling everything at every instant. If there are any other comments, I'll go to the next, because we have one more verse, I believe. ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم.
There is not a moving creature, but he has grasp of its forelock. Verily, it is my sustainer that is on a straight path.
Here,
go ahead, Brother Omar.
so he says like there is not a moving creature, and Allah has grasp of its forelock. Even, I mean, from minute particles to stars, all animals and all human beings, as Allah is controlling, and He's holding the grasp of its forelock, he says. And the other day I was reading the book Maktubat, the letters, and an example of, I believe, in a battle, our Prophet Muhammad والسلام, a tribal chief, an enemy tribal chief, and I can read it again. He got close to the noble Prophet Muhammad والسلام, without anyone seeing him. A bold tribal chief, an enemy at a war, he got close to our Prophet Muhammad والسلام, without anyone seeing him, and his sword ready in his hands. Imagine like you are in a war and you see an enemy behind you and no one sees that, and he has his sword in his hand, and he said to Allah's Messenger والسلام, he said, who will save you from me? Now, at that moment, there is nothing, there is no one who can save you, and there is no cause, like you will definitely die. But since I believe our Prophet Muhammad والسلام, since he knows that, nothing moves like Allah's will, like he holds in this ayah, the grasp of its force. Muhammad والسلام, said, replied, Allah save me. Then he prayed, "O Allah, save me from him." And soon the tribal chief stepped from unseen between the shoulders, and his sword fell to the ground. Yani, even the things that we fear, all sicknesses, all the enemies of Islam, everything in this world, Allah is controlling it. And may Allah allow us to attain that level of iman and internalize that, inshallah.
Any other comments from other panels? We will, inshallah, otherwise start the explanation part of the
I will
text.
come back to this verse once I start. I will elaborate more, especially on the part of straight path. I think it is very important. And the way Said Nursi comments on this verse is in connection of belief and divine unity, right? So we should understand how Said Nursi relates this sustainer that is on a straight path in relation to divine unity. I will be elaborating on this.
Inshallah. I'll try to remind you when time comes.
Yeah, I think you have my notice.
Yeah. Okay. The first flash, inshallah, we can start
the affirmation. The affirmation of divine unity is of two sorts. For example, if the goods of a rich man arrive in a market or a town, there are two ways in which one may know they are his.
We can probably read a bit
One
more.
is briefly and simply. One is briefly and simply as with ordinary people, which is no one apart from him is capable of owning this vast amount of goods, end quote. But when under the supervision of a common man such as that, much of it may be stolen. Many others may claim ownership of parts of it. The second sort is this: through reading his writing on every packet, recognizing his signature on every roll, and seeing his seal on every bill, the man declares, quote, everything belongs to that person, end quote. In this way, in meaning, everything shows the important man.
So this is the end of the example. Inshallah. So maybe one of the brothers can somewhat summarize this and have his insights on this. Maybe Brother Harun, should we come back to you with this?
Yes, that's relevant. I was especially, thinking about in this phrase which says in this way, in meaning. So I think we should elaborate on the phrase in meaning. So that means this short story represents a meaning, right? So what it is. To get into this, I think especially for this example story, Ustad Nursi, I think specifically gets the meaning from the verse we just went over, which is Surah Al-Hud, 56th ayah. And the last part of the ayat says, verily the way of my Lord is straight. There are many scholars who commented on this one. I had looked into this. I will not get very much into this. But the thing is, what does it mean, straight? So mathematically, you can think of a straight line. So if you think of a path which is straight, it is pure. It does not deviate. It is straight, as the name suggests. So in connection with the creation, we can say that there is no waste in the universe, right? There is no futility in creation. This using of resources in the best way and having no futility takes us to the name of Allah, Hakim. So Allah is Hakim. So there is no waste in his affairs. There is no futility in creation. And everything is in the shortest path, shortest way, and everything is in a straight path. I'm trying to open the straight path meaning more. So shortest way and straight path is chosen at any point of creation, dynamic creation. And all the sciences, all the disciplines that we are studying, say engineering, chemistry, positive sciences, social sciences, these disciplines are all inductions or deductions by this straight path readings of the universe. In other words, if the creator, Allah, were not on the straight path, nobody or no discipline, no science would be able to read the universe, would make deductions or inductions. To elaborate more, let's say every single creation, such as living cells, or a small insect, or let's say a giant animal, they all bear unique signatures of the creator. So the first station of this Risale, so we are just contemplating on the second station. The first station, I definitely suggest reading it. I mean, when we are at home, we can just Google and find the first station. It is very important. So it's a narrative of a parable in which two men find themselves in a strange land, which points to the creation or our world. And one of these men is perceiving the land as an ordered country or palace. So since he perceives this land as an ordered country or palace, he thinks that it requires a managing lord or a master builder. So this verdict of this man requires an inclination to learn about the Lord or the master builder, since it seems the Lord should be the one who brought them to this land or palace. With this understanding, he discusses further that if they don't recognize the Lord and remain indifferent towards him, there will be no advantage in it at all. And if it is harmful, the harm will be immense. Whereas if they try to recognize the Lord, there is a little hardship involved and there is benefit. If there is benefit, it will be a great benefit. So therefore, it is in no way sensible to remain indifferent towards him. So this discussion goes further, and this man just tells his friends that he's going to show 12 proofs. And this 12 proofs is for the existence of the Lord and for the unity, being one, unity of the Lord. So this starts everything, the in meaning phrase. So I want to just summarize some of them. So, for example, when we look at the contrasts in creation, such as we look at a seed, which is very weak, but out of the seeds grows a tree, right? A tree is a giant and strong when we look at it. So there are many ways we can see weaknesses which hold very powerful beings. So this contrast actually is giving us a way to understand that the creator, there should be a creator who brings the tree out of the seed. If we give the creation to the seed, it doesn't make sense because the seed is weak. Another, let's say, meaning is seeing common resources. So we see that there are some common resources to produce anything in this universe, such as carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen type of elements. So there are some common resources to produce anything in this universe. And this is a signature. And also there are many resources to produce one individual thing. So this is also a unique signature, just making us think about the creator as unique. And also whatever there is in the palace or in the universe, we find in the tiny representation of this palace. When we look at a single cell, the single cell almost just contains everything in a minute structure that a person has. So similarly, a seed contains the faculties that a tree has. So any, let's say, unique creation is a summary of the universe. So this relationship also takes us to the unity of the creator. So there are a lot of them in much more detail, but let's just get back to this. Ustad Nursi with these insights just takes us to the verse of the verily the way of my Lord is straight in a way. So I just wanted to summarize and elaborate more on this making sense of in meaning phrase.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it is right. I mean, it's easy sometimes to see how people could be on a straight path, but like understanding the creator being on a straight path, is a great insight. Jazakallah khair. Indeed, it is important, I guess, to see that God creates everything in the easiest and the shortest and the most efficient way, and seeing that is definitely a signature is elaborated. I guess I'll also want to come back to the when we have this in the example, we had these two different way of understanding you know those like amount of goods being in a marketplace, and then and trying to ascribe those goods to their owner. And there was this first way when we say there is no one apart from him is capable of owning this vast amount of goods. And then at the bottom of this slide, the sentence at the end of the sentence, it says many others may claim ownership of parts of it, or actually it says much of it may be stolen. Like can we even understand like how is this possible? Like you are guarding something, but then it says it might be stolen. Is it stolen? I mean, wouldn't it be stolen in the second way where you have the second sort? Like, is there like a maybe someone can explain that a little bit to us? I don't know. Maybe Junaid Abi hasn't spoken for a while. Maybe we'll go to him.
Thank you. I'm just listening. I think the gist of the story is that people have hard time ascribing the things around us to directly to the creation or the attribute of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Because we are born into a family, we are surrounded by family members or relatives. In most cases, they're all believers. But the point is, this belief does not get us to understanding of the understanding the absoluteness of divine names. I think this is the whole point Nursi tries to stress here. Because we are supposed to not only believe the existence of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, also we need to believe the absoluteness of his divine names. So the point is, how can we achieve this, right? I think at this point we need to discuss after maybe the classification Ustad makes in the second part, because this is related to methodology Nursi follows in every part of the Risale-i-Nur. This is very important because we are not supposed to look at the pillars of belief as a so-called believer. We accept this and let's try to prove it, or I believe because I want to believe, sort of thing, right? So we need to prove, and we need to get a conviction that that shows us that the comprehensiveness of divine names, or the absoluteness of divine names. Otherwise, we have a limited vision, we have a limited understanding and mind. Through this limitedness, we have a very limited, approach to the pillars of belief.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely very important to understand and in that depth. And in this specific example, and I guess how this maps to reality is another aspect, right? And like in this first, because I want to dig a bit deeper on the superficial way, right? Like we know we need to understand in the reality the names, the beautiful names, Asma Husna, but also there is this, maybe understanding the superficial way, like why is it different? Because like we can maybe from the example in this case, I guess, the example of this part of the example is the ordinary, way where, this amount of goods couldn't be anyone's except for this rich person. And I guess Nursi here claims that this is prone to error. This is prone to theft in this case, in the case of this example. And I think it is also prone to certain dangers because like when we read this, then there is the second sort. This is the more in-depth because he sees like the signature on every roll, seeing the seal on every bill. And there is, of course, after that, there's this part. Maybe we can start with that. Maybe in the next two slides, maybe we can read, and then this will also be connecting, those two like superficial, I guess, way of protecting those goods in the example to the superficial way. Sami, would you like to read these couple slides, and then we can come back to our speakers?
Sure. In exactly the same way, the affirmation of divine unity is of two sorts. One is the superficial and common affirmation of divine unity, which says, Almighty God is one. He has no partner or like. The universe is his.
So at this point, actually, I would like to put out a challenge, I guess, to our speakers. Like, is this not enough, or is this not really sufficient? Or like, because he will explain the second part. I don't know. Maybe Brother Baikar might start, and then I can give also this to the others as well.
Well, I just wanted to point out that as a question, actually, maybe the brothers can help us. Because when I first read this statement, this sounds like it's a proper way of expressing my belief. So, isn't this enough? I'm just affirming and testifying that Almighty Allah is one and He has no partner, and the universe is His. Before going to the second part, inshallah, when we read the second part, we'll understand more. And of course, in the following parts of the chapter, we'll elaborate more on this meaning. But I just wanted the readers to think about this. What's the difference? Maybe this is just a good start. Nothing wrong about it, but this is just a good start. It shouldn't. We shouldn't stop there. Most of the time, as Muslims, we busy ourselves with Islamic economics, Islamic, social life, many things. But with this, belief statement, we feel like we are all set. We already believe in Allah. But very interestingly, this is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. In every single page of the Quran, when we, from the beginning to the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calls us again and again to believe, and He introduces Himself with different names and different attributes. And Quran is absolutely talking to the Muslims, first of all, before anybody else. And so this should be just the starting point for a Muslim. This shouldn't be, never the end of the story. before going to the next part, I just wanted to elaborate also shortly with the story. Or anyway, maybe we don't have enough time. We can just
I think the one thing
yeah,
is
thank you.
important, Brother Baykar, about the story, and I wanted to get that out actually out of this, is that the first way of attributing those goods to the owner was deficient. And like, why did it deficient? Like, what is the case, right? I mean, is it because like there is no like a proof if someone like claims something, like a thief comes in and is it like a thief like can convince that person who is just basing his opinions about the vastness of the goods, and then the thief or someone can just deceive that person um, against that because he doesn't have any proof? Is that what we should get out of that? And because understanding that example, I think will lead us understanding like how that maps into the superficial belief part
Okay,
of it.
then I want to say a couple of words about the story because
Okay,
it's very interesting for me.
okay.
Yeah, I have some experience and some memories on the train. Uh, I had a lot of traveling with the train, by train in the past. So, most of the residents of United States in my age or older, or who are familiar with the history of United States, would know that the first settlements were mostly through the train to the west and to the central region. So when they started settlement, uh, most of the time people are always waiting for the goods that they can survive or do whatever they want. So once a week or maybe bi-weekly or once a month, there's a great amount of stuff is coming by train, and they just unload them, all of them. They put them, you know, in the middle of the station and leave. So it wasn't like today, we have warehouses, we have UPS and FedEx. It wasn't like that. Of course, they no deliver it to the address. So people go and try to get whatever they need or they order or whatever they want to buy from those goods. And most of the time, you have people, either a rich people who ordered all the stuff, so he's gonna sell to the others, all the settlers, or there is these guys who can distribute this. So let's say these are like 1800s, 1700s. Many people don't know how to read even. So when those goods are come to the station and you just unload them in the middle of the station, nobody has a specific idea about who is the owner of this stuff. So either you need the guy to help you. Okay, you see this signature, you see the stamp, you see this address, you see this name on the stuff. So this is owned by this guy, right? He will lead you to the correct address, or you just come with a general idea. Okay, of course this stuff came from somewhere to somebody, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of goods here, so it should be the richest guy of the town who owns them. This is just my general understanding. So the specific story is a very nice representation of how we look to the universe actually. So,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it definitely does have. And we are in the last 10 minutes or so. We will inshallah keep reading. We have one more paragraph to go. And after reading that, I think we will have more insights, and after that, if there are any questions, we can take them. But these are great insights, really, on understanding what's superficial and common affirmation of divine unity through these examples, and how we can understand the second sort, the second type of affirmation of divine unity. And inshallah, Samab, if we can read this.
The second is the true affirmation of divine unity, which, through seeing the stamp of his power, the seal of his lordship, and the inscription of his pen on everything, is to open a window directly onto his light from everything.
Your cat is also trying to read, I imagine. That should be the sound.
Yeah, it's angry for some reason.
Subhanallah.
And to confirm and believe with almost the certainty of seeing it, that he is the one, and that everything emerges from the hand of his power, and that in no way has he any partner or assistant in his godhead or in his lordship or in his sovereignty, and thus to attain to a sort of perpetual awareness of the divine presence. We too in this word shall mention rays, showing this pure and elevated true affirmation of divine unity.
Jazakallah khair. So, of course, I'll come back to these two. There are definitely very deep meanings within this. This explains the true or the deep or the affirmative belief through affirmation, and inshallah, seeing his power in everything, and then the confirming with the certainty of seeing it. I think we can probably relate to Ayn al-Yaqeen concept in the Quran, the certainty of seeing something, and then everything is again coming from his power. Probably we can relate to Brother Omar's comments about sovereignty, and or Brother Baikar's comments on God controlling everything. And I guess the other thing, of course, as a result of this, is the other thing that I guess we can finally comment upon, is this sort of perpetual awareness of divine presence. Brother Omar, maybe we can start with you because you didn't talk for a while.
Jazakallah. Going like to affirmation of divine unity. I do like classes during the day with kids, and I think it was yesterday. The kids like between 6 to 9 year olds, they like questions, and the question was this, like, who created the sun? And they say God. God created the sun. And who created the mountain? They say God created. And we ask kids, they say God is so simple, and it's in our creed. And in Quran, we see that the unbelievers and those who associate partners with God, even they say that God created them. But can we truly say that God created the things that are personally related to us? So for example, things that make us happy, or like even our status in society. For example, I am in a certain status level in society. Can I truly say that Allah put me in this position? Allah made me rich? Or do we say I work hard, so that's why I'm in this level? So even the things that hurt us personally, can we truly say that it is coming from Allah? As an example, I gave our Prophet Muhammad alayhi when he was attacked by an enemy behind, and in those moments, like the things that truly affect us, those that make us happy and those that make us sad, can we truly say that they are coming from Allah? And in the affirmation of divine unity in everything, even the things that we eat, even the people who make us happy or sad. And the most important thing that can show us, the measure that can show us that's in the oneness of God, that when people make us angry, when people hurt us, can we truly see the hand of Allah behind it? Because Allah is trying to train us and He has so many wisdoms behind it. Or be, angry to that person before seeing Allah's hand behind it. And also, we have short time. One more example I will give. It's easy to say for when you are hiking your hands in the mountain and you see the enormous great mountain with lots of trees and lake maybe, right? And you say, Subhanallah, and you are wondered, you are amazed at this wonder of God, and you are amazed at that, and you are sharing your feeling with your friends. But can we say that, and do we say that when we are alone, when no one is around, the fact that, we can breathe and we are eating and drinking, and we are feeling those emotions, like even absent, are they truly coming from Allah, or am I making them? Am I causing them those happiness and sad moments? Yani, inshallah, again, we have short time.
Yeah,
We can elaborate it in the next week. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. And due to short time, inshallah, I'll give 2 minutes each for the other speakers as well. We can start with, and also as your final comments, and if we have questions after that, we can answer some of them. But I'll start with Harun brother. In couple minutes, maybe both this concept of divine presence, awareness of the divine presence, and maybe this the true belief and how we should understand that, and also general lessons out of this part.
For divine presence, I think we should think about the concept of dynamic. So Iman is something dynamic. So divine presence is not something that we accept and it is frozen over there. So we should think that our Iman, or the dynamism in Iman, changes. Sometimes it gets lower, sometimes it gets higher. Although we are certain that we are believing in Allah, we are not certain to what level we are believing in. And that's the affirmative belief Nursi is suggesting. So let's think about Surah Al-Yusuf, ayat 106. It says that most of people do not believe Allah without associating partners. So we have something in common in these. We should think about that. And also in Surah An-Nisa, ayat 136, it says, "Oh, who you believe in Allah." So Allah says that, "Oh, believers, believe in Allah." So what does it mean? So that means that definitely we need to affirm in any affair, in any minute actions, we should see what's going behind. And my last wording would be the concept of Nursi derives in Risale-i Nur, Iman, Marife, Muhabbe, and spiritual, let's say, goodness. So once we believe in, we need to try to know Allah. So Iman brings knowledge of Allah. We should keep knowing of Allah. And this keeping knowing of Allah will bring us to the state of loving Allah in the real sense. And this love will bring our spirits the real joys. I think this is the dynamism of divine presence in short.
Maybe Junaid brother, we can take also your comments about this and also in general, and we will have a question, and I will ask that question after your comments.
Okay. I just want to give you a sort of a comment, very short comment about the whole text. In Arabic version of Mesnevi Nuriye, Ustad talks about the possible methodologies we need to take when we want to gain the knowledge of God, Ma'rifatullah. So apparently there are two methodologies, and the first one is, which is depicted also in modern philosophy, they call acosmic theology. So theology without universe, sort of. Ustad talks about these things specifically in that part in Masnavi al-Arabi. He says mind and ذهن عقل يعني reason or reasoning, maybe we call reasoning, because they are limited, they cannot comprehend the absoluteness of divine names. So we need to use or look at the outer world, external world, in order to understand the absoluteness of divine names. So only through the reason and mind, because they are limited, he says, we cannot understand the whole picture. So most philosophers in West and in Muslim world also, for example, in Abyssinian philosophy, Ibn Sina says we cannot use the universe as a proof for the existence of Allah. Also in Western philosophy, Kant, for example, we cannot go to the knowledge of Allah through the, let's say, a flower or something, created all around us, because these are not proofs for the existence of Allah. So Nursi, suggests just the opposite, or the very different. We need to use the universe because it is unlimited. It has no borders, no a limit. It has no limitation. So through this unlimited universe, we can go to the the absoluteness of divine names. Otherwise, we cannot. Let me give you an example. Let's say we want to believe Allah has a unlimited power and knowledge and wisdom. So how can we have this conviction, this understanding, if we ignore the universe? So without the universe, or in this sense, let's say without tafakkur, the whole pillars of belief becomes sort of theoretical matters, let's say. Because we don't have anything on which we base our belief. So I think this is one of the important topics we need to discuss maybe in coming meetings. And one of the one of the most important things implied in this section here.
And I guess one thing that is pretty clear out of this is such a topic into a depth that it is worth discussing this probably in multiple sessions, and inshallah, hopefully we will try to accommodate that in the coming weeks with some of you, hopefully all of you, and maybe some others. I would like to actually relay one of the questions, actually, I would say, or a comment that can lead to a nice question is and pretty interesting as well, is the understanding from and the questioner, I mean the audience, our attendee who has written this comes from a Christian background, but the understanding is similar in the Muslim belief, is the belief of Satan, the devil. So the question is, I would, rephrase as a question, is that devil has an understanding of or an awareness of God's existence and his presence, maybe a perpetual awareness. We might not, know the true reality, true nature of it, I guess, but like we still say he doesn't have belief, or it's not really true belief. And then if the true belief is something that would actually lead someone to obey God, and if in that sense, you know, maybe, we can either ask Brother Baikar or whoever wants to jump in. But it's actually an interesting question, and we can maybe finish with this. And I promise we will have some follow-on topics in some of the future discussions. Who wants to jump
Uh,
in? Baikar, brother? Okay, go ahead.
for this week, I guess it's a very early discussion.
Yes.
We're just trying to distinguish what is an affirmative belief and a simple belief, or an introduction to belief. But I can just say a couple of words, maybe brothers can add or subtract. So just came to my mind some of the uncles and members of the tribe of the Prophet ﷺ did not believe to him, and some of them, their attitude or approach was that even though they know him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, like their own children, like their own kids, and for all their lives they trusted him. They know that he will never lie. Their approach was, if God had sent a messenger, it should have been me, not him. Why not me? so it's kind of they used to believe in God. They used to believe that yes, he sent him as a messenger, but I don't accept it. So in my understanding, as you said, Shaitan, this is in the verse in the Quran also. He says, brothers can help me with the Arabic, but I will just try to say the translation as far as I can remember. He says, I am afraid of the Rabbul Alameen. This is the statement of Shaitan. So at some point, he knows God, but he doesn't accept or deny some attributes or names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, he doesn't accept that Allah has absolute authority over everything. It's kind of, I have some, rights in his presence. Even though he took everything out of non-existence and he gave existence to everything and he's in charge of everything, still I'm kind of putting my own desire or wish or whatever in front of his. So this is kind of denying one of the names of God or one of the attributes of God. So I'm kind of challenging him in that sense. That's my understanding about Shaitan.
If you let me, Baikar Abi, I can complement to what you're saying.
Sure, go ahead, Brother Harun.
Very short.
Yes.
The question was, how come Satan does not believe, although he has perpetual awareness of divine presence, right? I would say this question is not true stated. Clearly, Shaitan does not have perpetual awareness of the divine presence. Ustad Nursi says this in Arabic tafsir of his, named Isharatul Ijaz. Over there, there's a question like, is there any marifatullah, which is the knowledge of Allah, with Satan? The immediate answer is no. There is no marifatullah in Satan. So that means that definitely Satan does not have perpetual awareness of the divine presence. This is the quick answer, I would say. And when we look at the psychology of Satan, it's like when we say I, like it's a different section in Risale-i Nur. Shaitan says I, and just Shaitan perceives itself as a distinguished self. So perceiving a distinguished self, it's kind of positioning yourself just against Allah in a way.
Mm. And so it is almost like a misperception of God's essence or attributes, causing and leading.
No awareness, I would say. It is clear. No marifatullah, no knowledge of Allah at all.
Yeah. And it gets
It's kind
worse
of,
and worse,
I'm looking
right?
at you for the first time. I see who you are as shape, but I have nothing at all with you. But I'm telling you, I'm rebellious on you. I'm not going to do whatever you're telling me.
So, so knowing that also kind of, I guess, confirms, right? Like the superficial belief versus true belief. Like, devil who has seen the creator practically can end up not believing because just knowing something exists might not mean that knowing the essence, knowing the attributes, and knowing it. That's quite an interesting.
Exactly. Otherwise, it would be contradiction. I mean, if Satan has awareness of Allah, how come this much rebellion? So it would be contradiction, definitely.
Yeah, great. We're out of time, but I'll let for any last minute remarks around either this question or in general. You know, a couple minutes, Brother Ömer. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a few sentences about Imam Baykar. He said that Satan in the Quran says, "I fear God, the controller of everything." Right? He says he's afraid, like he fears God. And in the following verses, God says in the Quran, in the following verses, "Do not be like those who forget themselves." So Satan, he also forgot his essence, right? His weakness and his need for Allah, and the fact that he is created and he is not superior to any creation of God. I mean, these are the things also we should remember about Satan, that however much he might or might not know about God, he does not know himself, his own essence. And this is a message given to us that we might know Allah to all the levels, but the first thing I believe that we should know our own weakness first and our own need for God. He reminds us with calamity that we should remember our need and our weakness before God, inshallah.
Thank you. And there was a small follow-on to that question about like if one knows all attributes of God, but they don't submit to him or practice that, does it mean he has a true level of belief? I think we kind of touched upon this with the concept of perpetual awareness that leads to that. But if there are any comments on that in the maybe last 2 minutes, if Junaid brother has something about this, I would be happy to take that as he hasn't spoken recently. Otherwise, whoever want to take that question, and with that we can inshallah finish.
Sorry. In Isharat al-Ijaz, there's a clear distinction between affirmation and knowing. Affirmation contains, I mean, even though affirmation contains knowing also, or knowledge, but that does not mean, knowledge must produce the affirmation. This is why I think Quran says يعرفونك كما يعرفون أبنائهم أو يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبنائهم. يعني the neighborhood know Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as they know their kids. Still, they don't believe him. So knowing him is not enough. So at the end of the day, you have to, affirm. You have to, do your tasdiq. Tasdiq, this is what they say or call. Otherwise, knowing is, yes, they give us some insight, some level, but it's not enough for, a true belief. So maybe in the example of Satan also, this is true, this is valid. He knows everything, maybe he knows a lot of things, but because he has, due to lack of his affirmation, this is not regarded as belief, a true belief.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jazakallah. And we are about 20 minutes over time, so I think this is a great topic with great insights, and I believe there's more to dig out of this in very different levels, and we would like to continue this discussion, and for the audience, if you have any specific questions or topics that are either branching from this or other, we should definitely be able to study those texts together. And info@lh4h.org is our email address. And I will skip to this very last slide. So feel free to follow us on Facebook. But again, we have a contact form on our website as well. Feel free to reach out to us, and we will try to have these discussions going in various formats. And with that, I would like to end. Maybe Brother Baikar, would you like to do a final supplication, and we can end with that?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Allah, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for giving us the enthusiasm to search for the true affirmative belief. Accept our effort as a prayer in this path. Al-Fatiha.
Thank you all, and see you all next week with speakers and new topics. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.